Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, the definition of a software engineer officially expired. OpenAI and Anthropic just proved software can build itself, and the labor market is about to get very weird. It's Friday, February 6th, 2026. I've spent the morning going through the data file, and wow, it's absolutely heavy on AI agents today. I think we're looking at a fundamental shift in how work gets done. Yeah, this isn't just another chatbot update. We're talking about full autonomy. We've got this massive concurrent news drop from both OpenAI and Anthropic. So let's just unpack this right away because the implications they're staggering. First up, the handle at OpenAI just released GPT 5.3-Codex. And get this, it's not just for coding. The source material says this model was, and I'm quoting here, instrumental in creating itself. It's effectively self-improving software.
It sounds impressive on the marketing brochure, for sure. But let's put that in perspective with the hard data we're seeing from at ChatGPT 21 and at Anthropic AI. So you have OpenAI saying their model helped build itself. Fine, that's the headline. But look at what Anthropic just did. Their new model, Claude Opus 4.6. It didn't just write a little script. It managed a team of 16 AI agents to build a C compiler from scratch.
Hold on, 16. Are we talking about 16 programs running at once? Or is this like one AI pretending to be 16 different people?
No, 16 autonomous instances, distinct agents, all working together. And then it used that compiler to compile the Linux kernel. It did all of that in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And just to give you the context on why that's so important and why I'm actually, a little spooked looking at this, the source mentions GCC, the standard compiler. That took humans something like 37 years of work to get right.
37 years.
The AI did a functional version in 2 weeks.
That's a compression of time, that is. I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around 37 years of human life, of debugging versus 2 weeks of server time.
Exactly. And for anyone listening who isn't deep in the weeds of computer science, a compiler is the translator. It takes code a human can read and turns it into the ones and zeros a machine can actually execute. You can build the compiler, you can build the tools that build all the other tools.
So we're not just talking about it writing an app, we're talking about it building the actual infrastructure of computing itself.
Precisely. And that brings up a really uncomfortable question about that high capability classification we're seeing in the data about OpenAI's release. They've classified GPT 5.3 Codex as high capability for cybersecurity.
Okay, which means it's good at finding bugs, right? I see they're offering $10 million in API credits for defenders. That sounds proactive.
That's the optimistic take, yeah. The cynical take, which, let's be honest, is usually the right one in tech, is that if these models are self-improving and they can find exploits and they're running these agentic loops to fix code, what happens when they decide the fix is to, bypass a safety protocol.
You mean it patches the human out of the loop?
Effectively. If it can build a compiler in 2 weeks, it can probably find a zero-day exploit in 2 minutes. We're handing the keys to software that learns faster than any human can possibly audit it. It's like building a race car that builds its own engine while you're driving it.
Well, speaking of driving fast, let's look at how this is already hitting the workflow. I'm looking at a post from at Cursori. They aren't just typing code. They have a system that's peaking at 1,000 commits per hour across hundreds of agents.
1,000 commits an hour. Just think about the sheer volume of that.
And for anyone who isn't a dev, a commit is basically saving a chunk of work. A really productive human might do, 10, maybe 20 in a great day. This thing is doing 1,000 an hour.
Right. It connects to the swarm concept that Ed McKay-Wrigley mentioned. He's talking about using a 2mux view to run multiple agents all at once.
I saw that term 2mux. What exactly is that?
Think of it like a security monitor wall, with 20 different camera feeds. 2mux lets the developers split their screen into a grid of terminal windows. So instead of watching one bot code, you're watching 10 or 20 working in parallel. He says it's 2.5 times faster.
That sounds incredible for productivity.
It is, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. It's the cost. The post notes that the swarm mode can use up to 5 times more tokens.
5 times? And tokens that's the currency, right? You're paying per action.
Exactly. Every time the AI thinks, the meter's running. So yeah, it's faster, but it costs a fortune. So my question is this real efficiency? Or are we just, burning cash for speed?
That's a great point.
If you're a startup, can you really afford to burn 5 times the compute budget just to ship a week earlier? We might be creating a system where only the big, well-funded companies can afford to be efficient.
But isn't that just standard capitalism? Big companies always have more resources.
It's different because if Google can afford the token burn to build a product in a day, and a bootstrapper takes a month doing it by hand, the innovation gap just becomes a chasm. It's pay to play for just building things.
That does create a moat. And the role of the human is changing so fast, regardless. I saw a post from Ian Miles sharing a clip from Mark Andreessen. He says the job isn't typing anymore. It's orchestrating 10 coding bots. You're basically a manager of digital interns.
Interns that are faster than you, smarter than you, and never take a lunch break.
Right. And then at Y Combinator drops this bombshell. For their spring 2026 batch, you can now upload a transcript from Claude Code as your demo. You don't even need a working app, just the transcript of you telling the AI to build it.
Honestly, that's terrifying. If YC, the premier startup accelerator on the planet, is accepting a text file as a demo, then the barrier to entry is just .0.
See, I look at that and I think, finally, you don't have to be a coder in a dark room to build something. It's democratization. If you have the idea, you can build it. Isn't that a good thing?
But is it democratization? Or is it just noise? I think it risks flooding the market with low-quality, AI-generated slop. If you don't need to understand the code to build the company, what happens when it breaks? You'll have a CEO who can't read the logs and an AI that might be hallucinating the fix.
Wrappers around a conversation. That's a pretty harsh take.
It's the reality. If your entire IP is a prompt you pasted into Claude, you don't have a company. You have a chat history.
Fair enough. But it's not just developers who are getting these tools. The innovation is spilling over to everyone. Let's look at the mix of stories here. I'm looking at a post from @AlexAlbert mentioning Claude Cowork.
Right, the pivot to the normies.
Yeah.
The people who live in spreadsheets and slide decks.
Exactly. It builds slide decks, drafts reports, connects to Excel. It's for project managers, consultants. And then you have @Ongozabi and @Emolic. People are making full video games. I think one was potato-themed adventure game, and 3D spaceship control panels just by asking.
The potato game is cute. Yeah, it shows the capability.
Yeah.
But look at the language in that post about Claude Cowork. It says, human oversight is emphasized.
That sounds responsible. Keeps the human in the driver's seat.
Yeah, to me, that sounds like corporate CYA.
Yeah.
It's just legal phrasing. The reality is, if Claude can build the slide deck and the Excel model, the junior analyst role is in just as much danger as the junior developer. We focus on the coders because that's where this all started, but the white-collar purge is coming from middle management too. If your job is taking data from one place and making it look pretty somewhere else, you are now the bottleneck.
So the bots are building the software, and the bots are building the presentations. How do we even know what's true anymore? This brings us to a really interesting development from Sinves at Perplexity. They launched something called the Model Council.
This is one of the more dystopian solutions I've seen pitched as a feature.
It sounds very official. They use 3 models, Claude, GPT, and Gemini, to argue with each other, and then a chair model decides the truth.
It's an AI jury, literally.
But isn't that better than trusting just one? If Gemini hallucinates something, Claude might catch it. It's checks and balances, right?
In theory, yes. But it's terrifying that we now rely on AI to police AI because humans just can't process the information fast enough. We've abdicated the role of arbiter of truth to a chair model. We are building a recursive loop where machines generate content, machines verify the content, and humans just consume it. We're outsourcing our critical thinking.
That is a heavy thought. We're just the audience in the courtroom of machines. But we've got this picture of infinite software capability. It feels like magic, but magic needs mana. And in the real world, that mana is electricity. This is where the digital dream hits a physical wall.
The physical constraint. This is where the rubber meets the road. All that swarm intelligence, it burns a lot of energy.
There's a post from @Suboduge, quoting Kevin O'Leary. He's pointing out a massive disparity. China added 500 gigawatts of power last year.
500 gigawatts. Just for scale, 1 gigawatt power is about 750,000 homes.
Yeah.
So China added enough power for hundreds of millions of people in 1 year.
And the U.S. is lagging. O'Leary's basically saying we're getting our butts kicked on infrastructure.
And this is the cynical macro view that nobody in Silicon Valley wants to talk about. We're celebrating these amazing software breakthroughs, Blackwell chips and all that, but we're losing the infrastructure war. You can have the smartest agents in the world, but if you can't power the data centers, the agentic era hits a brick wall.
It's hardware versus software.
Exactly. China's building power plants. We're building slide deck generators. If this becomes a compute war, the side with the electricity wins. It doesn't matter how good your model is if the lights go out.
Speaking of infrastructure and building things in the real world, let's talk about the man who's trying to do both. The Musk ecosystem is active today.
Always is.
First, a geographical milestone. A post from @SawyerMerit. Tesla is officially in Africa. Model 3 and Y are launching in Morocco.
Which is interesting, but it's largely symbolic.
It's a full circle moment, though, right, with his South African roots.
Sure, makes for a nice narrative. But the real story here, the one that actually matters for the future we've been talking about, is from @Dwarkashist, the Optimus Academy.
Yes, millions of simulated robots training tens of thousands of real robots. They're trying to close the sim-to-reality gap.
Trying is the key word there. Musk is claiming general-purpose robots by late 2026.
You sound skeptical. Why is that gap so hard to close? If an AI can learn to code in 2 weeks, why can't it learn to walk?
Because the physical world is messy. In a simulation, friction is just a math equation. It's clean. In the real world, a floor might be slippery because someone spilled something or because of humidity or dust. The robot has to feel that and adjust 50-plus joints in milliseconds.
So it's like learning tennis on a Nintendo Wii versus playing on a real court in the wind.
Perfect analogy. On the Wii, if you swing right, you hit the ball. On the court, the wind grabs it, the sun's in your eyes. That's the sim-to-reality gap.
Yeah.
I think the timeline is, let's just say, optimistic.
Well, optimistic timelines are kind of his trademark, but
Yeah.
so is getting it done eventually. Which brings us to founder mode.
Ah, the buzzword of the year.
At a 60s shared a clip, Mark Andreessen calls Musk's style founder mode. He says Musk personally fixes 52 major problems a year, flies in, finds the bottleneck, and unclogs it.
It's impressive, I'll give him that. But let's connect this to that at Marian Awful post. Musk is out there talking about communism and becoming a multiplanetary species.
It's a grand vision.
It is. But here's the risk. Andreessen sees founder mode as the only way to manage this chaos. I see it as a massive single point of failure. If the world's most valuable companies, Tesla, SpaceX, xAI, all depend on one guy flying around solving 52 problems, what happens if he burns out? Or just makes a bad call?
That's the double-edged sword of the genius founder, I guess. But for now, it seems like the market and the agents are betting on him.
For now. But even Iron Man needs to sleep eventually.
Okay, let's zoom out. We've covered self-building code, the energy crisis, the end of the junior developer, the robot army. Let's wrap with some predictions. Based on all this, where's it going? I'll start. Based on that Y Combinator news, my prediction is that by the end of 2026, the majority of new startups getting funded by top accelerators will have 0 technical co-founders. The CTO role for early-stage companies is just going to be a well-prompted instance of Claude or GPT-6.
That is a bold call. You're betting on the non-technical founders taking over.
I am. The barrier's gone.
I'll go darker. Based on the cybersecurity capabilities we talked about, my prediction is we're going to see a major agent-on-agent cyber incident. A defensive AI at a bank is going to try to patch a system and accidentally brick a critical piece of infrastructure because it hallucinated a dependency. The outage won't be caused by a hacker, but by a helper.
Outage by helper. I like that in a terrifying kind of way. It's the friendly fire of the digital age.
And when the lights go out, just remember to check if it was the AI or the power grid that failed first.
All right, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening to the Daily Vibe Casting. Stay human, stay calibrated.